My name is Blair Wells, and I'm 26. I've never liked the word inherit. It sounds cold. But that's the word I've been repeating in my head, over and over, like a broken record, ever since my mom died and left me. The house. Not just a house. The same Victorian house where the three of us lived until my dad left. I didn't romanticize the place. It creaked at night, smelled musty, and reminded me of things my mom never said out loud. But it was her home, and that meant it was mine too. My mom died peacefully, at home. She planned it. Even her death was neat, like everything else. In her folder, placed on the table next to her bed, was a will. Notarized, signed, detailed. She left me everything. But the next day, my dad showed up, and he wasn't alone. He brought Laura, his new wife. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. He gave me a cold hug, and the first thing he said wasn't, "How are you?" or, "I'm sorry." No. He said, "Did you already contact the probate registrar?" I nodded. "That's a shame. We thought we'd get there first," Laura said. Her hand was on his shoulder. Not like a wife, like an owner. And that's when I felt the floor crack beneath me. Not the actual floor, but my entire perception of family. They didn't come with regret. They came with claims. "She had no right," Dad said. "The house was purchased during the marriage. Legally, it's joint property. We're going to contest the will." I didn't even get to say anything. They already knew their plan, and it wasn't sudden. They'd been preparing. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a warrior. I'm just someone who's been left without a mother, with a house that creaks in every damn corner. But then, I heard my mom's voice, not out loud, inside me. "Don't let them decide what belongs to you." I thought it was just an inheritance, but it turns out my mother left me something else. She left me a front line, and when I went up to the attic, searching for old papers, I found something I didn't expect. Something I probably shouldn't have seen. The silence in this house no longer felt peaceful. It was tense, like something that hides more than it reveals. I spent the entire morning in my mother's library, a room that smelled like wood, dust, and something warm, like she was still there. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just opened drawers, looked behind books, and with every small movement, my insides pulled tighter, like a muscle that remembers pain before the brain does. In the sideboard, between photo albums, I found an envelope. No name on it. Inside was a key, an old one, heavy. I didn't know what it unlocked. Not at first. Then I remembered that small cupboard in the basement, the one my mother always kept locked. "There's just papers in there," she used to say. Now I knew. They weren't just gas bills. It was cold in the basement. The light flickered, and for some reason, that scared me more than the dark. The cupboard creaked open like a bad omen in a horror film. Inside, a box. Old documents. Not just bills. No. These were contracts. Notarized extracts. Letters. One was from a lawyer my mother had been paying, in secret. It mentioned a trust agreement, with me as the sole beneficiary. I held the papers like they might explode. Then, footsteps. Upstairs. Slow. Down the hall. But I was sure I was home alone. I came up from the basement. No one was there. But on the kitchen table, a cup of coffee, still hot, and it wasn't mine. I didn't know what was worse, that they wanted to take me away, or that they were already inside. I didn't know who else had keys to this house, but I knew one thing for damn sure. I couldn't call it safe anymore, even if it was my home. The next morning, I called the number I found in my mother's letter, and for the first time, I heard the voice of the person she trusted, more than me. The voice on the other end of the line was old, shaky, but he said my mother's name like he'd just said goodbye to her yesterday. No, Mrs. Wells, just Joanna. And in that moment, I knew. He knew her. Really knew her. I sat in the kitchen, papers everywhere, my eyes fixed on the number scribbled on the back of an old letter. Gregory Landon, ESQ, my mother's lawyer, or her former one. I dialed. I didn't know what I was going to say, but the voice on the other end, it was like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. Wells? Yes, this is Blair, Joanna Wells's daughter. I've been waiting for your call, he said. No pause, no surprise. And inside me, everything just stopped. We agreed to meet at his office. Old brick building, overlooking the square, wooden-framed windows. Inside, it smelled like leather, mold, and dust that had earned its place in the air. He didn't waste a second. Your mother knew there could be complications after her death. She knew that Dad would try to take something. Not just take, he said. He tried before, back when they split the property, but she set up a separate trust, took the house out of the joint marital assets. We finalized it in 2014, he added. And he signed it. He what? He signed a waiver of claims in exchange for other assets. He opened a drawer, slow, deliberate, handed me the copies. I held them, hands trembling. Why didn't she tell me? He looked at me, quiet, then finally said, because she was afraid you'd be upset. To know is to fear, and to fear is to give them power. She didn't want you to live with this, your whole life. I walked out, into the rain. People passed, cars honked. Someone yelled into a phone. But all I saw was my father's signature, his handwriting, his consent, his betrayal. And then the thought hit me. If my mother did everything right, why was Dad acting like he'd already won? I thought it was denial. But what if it wasn't? What if it was a plan? And I wasn't a daughter in that plan, just a variable? I got home, opened my laptop. There it was, a letter, unofficial, anonymous, only 2 sentences. And in that moment, I knew. Someone was watching, my every move. When fear becomes a habit, you stop noticing it. And then, just 1 sentence, and everything inside you tightens like a spring, because they see you. And they know that you know. I came home late. The light in the hallway was on. I didn't leave it on, and it didn't scare me anymore. It made me angry. Everything inside me was boiling. Fatigue, adrenaline, that gut-deep feeling that the game had started, but no one had handed me the rules. I sat down at my laptop, started scanning documents, and then I saw it. 1 new email, no signature, no subject, just 1 line. This isn't just about the house. Don't trust Kay. I felt sick, physically sick. I reread it 5 times, like the meaning might change if I stared hard enough. Don't trust Kay Claire? Laura's daughter? Claire Wells? My stepsister? She wasn't even part of this story. Or so I thought. But then I remembered what my mom once said. She's a quiet child, but not silent. She just chooses when to speak. Claire have known something? Could she have been a double agent? I remembered her gaze at my mother's funeral. There was something unspeakable in it. Not grief, not sympathy, more like anticipation. Suddenly, this house felt like a maze. Every surface, a trap. Every word, a loaded weapon. The next morning, a message from my father. Short, to the point. I want to discuss the terms. We will meet in the presence of a lawyer. You have 2 days. Terms. Like it was a game. Like my home was a business transaction. I went to the kitchen, poured myself some water. It tasted like iron. And then my eyes locked onto the chest in the living room. My mother's favorite thing. Always locked. Keyhole staring back like a question. I remembered the key. The one I found tucked in an old book. It fit. Inside, documents, letters, Photos. One photo stopped me cold. My mother, and Claire, little Claire, with a handwritten caption, "To my angel, always with you." They were closer than I thought. I thought I knew who was mine, and who wasn't. But now, I wasn't even sure of my own memories. The worst part? I was only just getting to know my mother. After her death, I agreed to meet my father, but I didn't go alone. And I sure as hell didn't go empty-handed. I went to the meeting feeling like I was crossing a line. But the truth is, I had crossed that line a long time ago. I just didn't realize it until now. He chose the location: city center, glass building, coffee machine in the lobby, receptionists with plastic smiles, everything he loves: control, facade, performance. But I didn't come for applause. With me was Joan Marshall, a lawyer recommended by Gregory Landon. She looked like someone who'd seen more lawsuits than weddings. Her eyes could send a blizzard down your spine. Dad showed up with Laura. They sat across from us. And suddenly, I realized how little remained of the girl who, just days ago, had been afraid of that look. "We're not here to fight," he said. "You came to take my home," I replied. "Let's not sugarcoat it." "The will can be contested," Laura said. "There's reason to believe it was made under psychological pressure. Besides, Blair was financially dependent. That upsets the balance." I almost laughed. "Are you serious? Mom ran this house. She did the books. She did everything herself. I lived with her because I loved her, not because I was paid to." Joan gave me a nod. It was time. I pulled out a copy of the 2014 agreement, signed by my father. "You voluntarily gave up your rights to the house," I said. "This isn't just about a will. It's a trust, legally binding. You have nothing." Laura grabbed the papers, started reading. Dad's face changed, not right away, but slowly, like an ice wall starting to crack. "You kept this," he said quietly. "Mom kept it. I just found it." Then, he switched again, voice flat, eyes sharp. "You don't have enough money for a trial. You won't be able to keep up. We will." That wasn't a threat. That was a fact. I looked at Joan. She was already opening the next folder. "We'll file a counterclaim," she said, "for attempted unlawful seizure of property and for trespassing. Yes, we have camera footage. Date hidden." Laura went pale. Dad? Silent. But his eyes, they didn't flash with anger. They sank into something worse. Despair. Because this wasn't about inheritance anymore. This was about who you're willing to become when you're ground into dust. And I was no longer the child in their story. I was a force to be reckoned with. I didn't know what they would do next, but I didn't expect the next blow to come from them. It came from Claire. There are moments when you just want to be a child again, when everything feels too complicated, when the truth is too sharp to touch, when all you want is to be held. And then she walked through the door, and I had no choice. She was standing on my doorstep, 6 in the morning. I was still dripping from the shower, towel in my hair, gray jacket, hood up, hands in pockets. "Claire." I opened the door, silently. "Can I come in?" I nodded. She walked straight into the kitchen, like she used to, back when we were teenagers and my mom was still trying to glue us together. "Did you get the letter?" she asked, not even looking at me. "Did you send it?" Silence. "So who was Don't Trust Kay about? You?" "No." Then she added, "But if I were you, I wouldn't trust myself either." I didn't understand. Or maybe, I didn't want to. "Mom left you the house," Claire said, "but she talked to me before she died. She said she wasn't sure about you. That you were too emotional, that you could destroy what she spent so long building." My head spun. It physically hurt. "That's a lie," I said. Those were her words. She pulled out a folded paper, yellowed, creased. My mother's handwriting. I knew it on sight. Claire set it on the table, gently pushed her cup away. I couldn't read it. I wouldn't read it. Why didn't you tell me? Why now? Because I trusted you. She looked at me, and it cut. But then, she paused. Laura promised me something more than you. I felt it. Everything inside me collapsed. Are you with them? I'm with myself, Blair. And I want part of this house too. Part of Mom. And I realized it wasn't just about bricks and walls. It was about love, about worth, about legacy. Who did she love more? Who was she protecting? I always thought the worst thing was losing my mother. But no, the worst thing is when someone stands in front of you and says, she loved me more. I sat down, hands trembling, and I read the letter. And what I found inside changed everything. About her, about Claire, and worst of all, about me. There are things you don't want to know, not because they'll change everything, but because they'll change you. But when you open a letter from your dead mother, there's no more hiding. I didn't sleep that night. The letter lay on the bedside table, not moving, but I could hear it, like it was breathing. A stone on my chest, a truth I never asked for. 5 a.m. I got up, made coffee, and finally, unfolded the sheet of paper. Her handwriting, those familiar curves, the slight tilt. And suddenly, her voice was alive in my head. Claire, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you out loud what I needed to say earlier. You've always been my observer. Quiet, attentive, and I knew you needed something of mine. Because this house isn't just for Blair. She's emotion. You're logic. She's the heart. You're the shadow. I love you both. But sometimes I feel like you're the one who notices what I don't say. I know Blair can destroy herself without answers, but I'm also afraid the truth will make her even tougher. I entrusted her with the house, but I entrusted you with my memories. Don't give them up. And if the moment comes when she loses her way, find her, even if it means becoming her opponent. With love, Mom. I was shaking. That wasn't a sentence. That wasn't a confession. That was a set of instructions. For Claire. I sat in silence, like someone had turned my soul inside out. She trusted Claire too, not legally, but emotionally. I was the heir. Claire was the guardian. What did that mean? That my mother loved her more? Or just differently? I didn't even have time to breathe. My phone lit up. Another message, anonymous. She didn't tell you everything. There's another letter, but it's not in the chest. Look in the attic closet, where her coat is. I ran. I hadn't been there since the funeral. Her things still hung there. Her coat, her scarf, her scent, vanilla and something warm. Something her. In the pocket of that coat, a new envelope, sealed. No name, no address. I looked up, as if I could see her. You knew I'd find it, didn't you? But the only answer was in my hands. I was the daughter left behind. But now, I didn't know what I'd been left behind for, or why this house had really been left to me. I opened the second letter. Inside was a name, not mine, not Claire's. A name I had never heard before, until now. The second letter lay in my palm like a grenade without a pin. The name on it wasn't mine. It wasn't Claire's either, but I knew it would explain everything, or destroy everything. The envelope felt heavy, heavier than paper had a right to feel. I opened it, fingers trembling like the truth could burn. One sheet of paper, one familiar handwriting, but it wasn't addressed to me. Adam, if I don't say this in time, find Blair. She is my center, even if I haven't always been there for her. She needs to know the truth. I've done everything to protect her. But in recent years, I've come to realize protection isn't silence, it's the truth. You were the only one who knew about the agreement with Richard. You kept the copies. You were there for every meeting with the lawyer. You saw my fears. If anything happens, tell her that she was my choice, not an accident, and tell her I knew they would try everything, but she will survive. Joanna. I reread it. Once, twice, 3 times. Adam? I didn't know anyone named Adam. But deep inside, I felt it. He was the voice, the whisper, the quiet guide in the dark. I jumped to my laptop, typed his name. Nothing. Then, I remembered. The emails. They came from Landon. Gregory Landon, my mother's lawyer. I called him. No greeting, no lead-in. Do you have a son? Yes. He hesitated. Adam Landon. Why? I think he was close to my mother, more than I knew. Pause. Silence. Then Gregory's voice, completely different, softer, like something he had been holding on to cracked open. He was her friend, but not only that, he was her protector, emotional, legal, human, everything I couldn't be, he was. Did he write to me? I'm not allowed to know, he said. Then after a pause, quietly, but yes, if he did, it wasn't for no reason. I hung up. The world spun. My mother had a friend, maybe more. She had a support system she never spoke about. And now? That support had become mine. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt power. My mother called me her center, but now I knew. She had an entire orbit, hidden, protected, chosen, and now it belonged to me. The next day, a message, but it wasn't anonymous anymore. It started simply, "My name is Adam, and I owe you the truth." Sometimes the hardest thing is listening to someone else's story about the people you thought were only yours. Especially when that story sounds more true than your own memories. My name is Adam. I owe you the truth. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. the park, by the fountain. No lawyers, just us. I didn't know what to expect. Old, young, enemy, friend. When I arrived, he was already there. Gray coat, still, but attentive. He looked at me like a man who had been silent for far too long. You look like her, he said. No hello, just that. Did you know my mother? He nodded. 11 years. I was her tax advisor, and over time, a friend. Sometimes, someone she could just not be strong with. And she trusted you more than me? She trusted me with something else, Blair. Nothing more. She protected you, but at the same time, she prepared you. She didn't want this house to be a burden. Do you know why? I didn't answer. Because it once was for her. This house is a memory, but not just a good one. This is where she learned to be silent. This is where she was humiliated. This is where she lost herself. Only in the last few years did she start to take that back. The ground fell out from under me, emotionally, quietly, completely. And the trust? I helped her build it, legal guarantees, so you'd have what she didn't, so you wouldn't need to prove you're good enough. She wanted to give you freedom, but also the right to choose, even if it meant choosing against her. I didn't know what to say. He handed me something, a small voice recorder. There's a recording, the last conversation she asked me to save. I was supposed to give it to you if I saw that you didn't break down. Only listen if you're ready. Ready for what? For the whole truth, and for the fact that she wasn't just yours, but she chose you. And that's not just legacy, Blair. That's her will. I held the recorder, tight, but it wasn't the recorder that shook. It was me. Because on the other side of the play button wasn't just her voice. It was me, the version of me she saw, and I didn't know if I could handle it. But I pressed it anyway. Click. And there she was, her voice, soft, steady, close. And the first thing she said changed me forever. There are things you put off, buttons you're afraid to press, because once you do, there's no turning back. I pressed play, and my mother began to speak. The recording started with static, the kind of soft, lonely sound you hear when someone just left a room. Then, her voice, weaker than I remembered, but still unmistakably hers. Blair, if you're listening to this, it means I'm not here anymore. Something broke inside me, a crack, right through the center of my heart. I wasn't always a strong mother. I stayed quiet when I should have shouted. I built this house, not as a fortress, but as a shield, from the past, from your father, from my own weakness. You were always a fire, and I was afraid that those who burn brightest are the first to burn out. But I was wrong, because you're still here. Tears. They just came, unstoppable, undeniable. I chose you, not because of blood, not because of tradition, but because I believed. If anyone could be trusted with this story, it was you. This house is yours, not as a burden, as proof that we can change what hurt us and pass down not trauma, but strength. And one more thing. I'm sorry I divided my love, but I could never give everything to one person. You are my heart. Claire is my peace. You are both parts of me. And if you can, be a sister to her, not because you have to, but because she was also made the daughter of a stranger's home. Click. The end. I sat there for a long time. Nothing moved, except the light, coming through the blinds. And that's when I realized she hadn't just left me an inheritance. She had left me a choice. I walked back into the living room. Claire was sitting there, quiet. But for the first time, truly quiet, I handed her the recorder. You have a right to hear this. She took it like it was something alive, something heavy, something forgotten. I didn't know if this was a beginning, but it was no longer a war. The next day, I went to Joan Marshall's office. I'm ready to finalize everything. She raised an eyebrow. And? No war? Without, I said, but with one condition. Part of the house will go to a foundation for women who've experienced loss or betrayal. I don't want this house to be just mine anymore. She smiled. That's not inheritance. That's a legacy. This house isn't just a building. It's a place where memories are kept. And now I know I'm not hiding from them. I'm carrying them with me.